Howdy folks, Tex here. Welcome to Southern Belle Bigfoot. Let me introduce y'all to a great friend of mine, Celena.
Hey y'all, I'm Celena. I started this channel because I had my own encounter, and I know what it's like to be ridiculed and unable to share my experiences. I want to give everyone a safe haven to share their encounters with these magnificent beings. I love to hear yours as well. Please email them to me at cwlenagarrett@gmail.com. And if you'd like to support me in my journey to the truth, my Cash App is $Selena Bigfoot, and I look forward to hearing from you.
Hey everybody, we made it just under the wire. I had some technical difficulties to deal with. Selena's got the night off, but I brought.
And we are definitely not Celena.
No,
we don't talk like her. She got the cutest accent.
Right?
Yep. We definitely
Let me give it a shot.
That.
How y'all doing tonight? That didn't work, did it?
No, you failed, Tex.
I did.
Yeah,
I did. How you doing, Chris?
I'm good. Happy Sunday.
Right. Man, it's shaping up to be a busy week. We're under a frost warning tonight.
It's cold here too. It's been cold here all day.
I'm like, I thought we're done with this.
We're not. We're not.
Like what in
here? So yeah, all week long here it's going to be nasty. So anyway, I'm ready for spring.
I think we're seeing it.
I want the warm spring. I don't want the cold spring.
Right. Mm-hmm. And I'm wondering what kind of summer we're shaping up for. If it's going to be a late summer, maybe it won't get so dadgum hot. Yeah.
Maybe. I don't know. So Missouri gets really, really humid. Like July and August, it's just awful here. So it'll probably be awful in July and August here. Always is.
Well, August is always absolutely just beautiful here in Texas.
Yeah, right about the same.
Yeah, it's absolutely brutal, triple digit temperatures and almost triple digit humidity in some areas.
I know. The humidity is awful here too. It gets really bad in Missouri too. So hopefully for our conference though, it won't be that bad.
I'm hoping for a nice, cool, tame September. That's what I'm hoping for.
Yep. September here can be really hot or be like nice, Yep.
Mm-hmm. I know because my anniversary is September 5th. Mm-hmm. And the year we got married, we had a northern blow in and it got down in the 40s. And it was like, but I don't think I've seen a cool September since. And that was 30 some odd years ago.
Right. Exactly. I'm with you on that. I'm with you. Yep. Somebody's asking. Yeah. Celena has the night off, everybody.
Yep. She does.
So you're stuck with us.
Yeah. I'm going to apologize for me right now, but I had to bring in some help. So
we're sorry.
Right. But she's working her little tail end off. So I told her to take the night off, but I bet she joins. I bet she shows up in chat. She can't stay away. But
yeah, I hear you. So we're talking about what lurks in the woods, huh?
Yeah, I was thinking about it, and as much stuff as we've got, y'all got a lot of stuff coming up, and we got this stuff going on here in Texas with this investigation. Mm-hmm. I'm looking at making some more trips to Brown Springs.
And you're coming to Missouri a couple times a year. Yep.
Yes. I'll be there in May. Mm-hmm. Right? Yeah, I'll be there in May. And I'm looking forward to that one.
Yep, for sure.
Because there's all kind of varmints out there.
There is. And where you're coming to is it's actually where we do ghost investigations. Our team, Haunted Souls, has exclusive rights to that place. And so anybody wants to do any investigations, they have to go through us to schedule them and book them. And we're kind of like the hosting team. So one of our members has to be there when somebody rents it out. Right. Anyway, so we were there, as you know, Brandy and I, and our friend Terry were there back in November for the first ghost hunt ever there. And we captured some sort of howl from the woods. And I can't explain it. I sent it, you guys have heard it. I sent it to Joe Doyle from Hellbent Holler. I mean, I've sent it and nobody can really explain it. Will Lunsford down in Arkansas heard it. And, like it's nothing native to Missouri. So fast forward a little bit. I was there, I guess about a month ago, and it's the same thing. They got a howl and they come running inside and they're like, hey, there's, it's making noises out here. And so we got, we heard an owl, which I believe one of them was truly an owl. However, there was one though that did not really sound like an owl.
Right.
Was an owl. So I can't say for sure, I can't jump and say it was a Bigfoot or anything, but it was just a little odd. And so we're looking forward to that. We're doing a full cryptid. We're not even going to do the ghost part of it that weekend you come down. Monica's coming. Miguel Ramirez from Sasquatch Theory is going to be coming over there. And then our team, mine and Brandy's team. And, we're going to investigate the woods there, because another thing too. So there is a road about a mile away from there that maybe 2 miles that I call Dogman Road. And there was a Dogman encounter on that road. So, and I just nicknamed it over the years. And that was many years ago before we ever even got into Emmaus. So right. I find that pretty interesting. Just saying.
Yeah. Cause I'm going to me, I'll do my thing when I'm out there, and we'll see what we can figure out, because I want to get out there. I want to get out there by myself and try to stir some stuff up.
Yeah.
Which is not always a smart thing to do, but,
well, there's also cemeteries on the property. The property used to be 1,100 acres, and over the years it's sold out. Now it's right at 300 acres, which is still plenty.
Yeah.
And it's thick woods, it's hills, it's definitely not flat ground, but it does run along the Missouri River also. So
it's perfect. I mean, it's
right.
Everything you need is right there.
Right. The habitat is perfect for it. So we look forward to that and seeing if we can capture anything. And if we do, great. If we don't, that's okay too. We'll have a good time.
A bad day out in the woods is better than the best day at work. That's
right. I agree. Absolutely. So
how long are we going to be out there? Is it 3 nights or 2 nights?
What are we doing? I think it's 3 nights. I think we're staying off. Yeah. I think it's 3 nights we're staying out there. So Brandy will be joining us, and the rest of the team, I think, will be joining us out there too. So it's just, it's a really, really cool place. And I hope we can maybe try to get a few answers.
Yeah. Well, odds are we'll come back with more questions, but
probably so.
That's usually how it works.
Yeah.
But man, it's fun getting in questions.
It is. It is. Just things like that. Like, I don't know about you, Tex, but when I was a kid, my dad lived out in the country. And, me and my brother, we always played out in the woods, always, when we were at his house. And, my dad said, the woods are safe. There's nothing out there going to hurt you. And what little did I know back then,
right.
And if he would have known, because my dad, I mean, he knows I do the show, but, he's not really a believer, but, had he, if he really knew what was out there, he never would have allowed me and my brother to go off playing out in the woods like we did.
My daddy always, of course, you got to remember, my dad grew up in Texarkana around all this crap, right? Mm-hmm. So, but my daddy always told me, he goes, son, there ain't nothing there at night that ain't there during the day. That's what he told me. So, and he's right. Yeah. But there's stuff that lurks at night that don't always lurk during the day.
Right. That's what I'm saying, like, I don't know. I personally would not let my kids go out into the woods by themselves at night, even during the day, think people go missing all the time during the day, Yeah. So I don't know. I just chalk it up to, like back then, I guess we were a lot tougher, but I don't know.
I don't know. I guess it's the fact that we were taught different skills. I think is what the big deal was.
I really do think we were brought up tougher, though. I do. I think our generation.
Well, I agree.
Yeah. Because
I mean, you get banged up, you just rub a little dirt on it and walk it off.
And move on. Yeah, that's it. And now, like it's a big ordeal, like, drinking out of a water hose. We were talking about that last night on BMR show, like people wouldn't think of doing that because they'll get poisoned or something. Well, look, we're all still here and we did it.
Well, I'm sure, and you grew up, around horses and all this kind of stuff, just like I did. I can't tell you how many baths I took or how many, just cooling off dunks I took in a horse trough, cow pond, whatever
Right.
was there,
Yeah. Yep. It's a true story. So, it's just, I think we were raised a lot different back then. And, and as far as even going into the woods, because like, I don't know, maybe I turned into one of those because I know now what's in the woods, I've saw what's in the woods.
Yeah. Me and you both, sister. Me and you both. But all that being said, I hate for people to be scared to go out in the woods.
Right.
Because it's not like you're going to go out there and everybody's just going to vanish. 9 times out of 10,
you're going to be fine.
The whole disappearing stuff happens with you being stupid. It really does.
Agreed. Yeah.
Do other factors play it? Absolutely. But I think if you can make smart decisions, but you need to know things because as a whole, people don't teach their kids like we were talking about. They don't teach their kids how to survive on their own, or even how half of them couldn't even hardly get through a one night of camping.
Right.
And I couldn't. And I gotta be honest with you, man. I could not believe when I got older. I could not believe and got out of that small town how many people had never been camping.
Isn't that crazy? I love to camp. Yeah.
Me too. I still do.
Me too.
And it's like, well, that's like, for what, a few years I was going out by myself, and then y'all put the kibosh on that. But my wife I didn't even think to mention it. I was doing by myself.
Right.
I really didn't. It was just me doing what I enjoyed. And because I had done it all my life by myself, I didn't give it 2 thoughts, Well, and when y'all had that intervention with me and grounded me, and I was griping about it to her, she's like, "Hey, do you mean to tell me you've been doing that by yourself all this time?" I said, "Yeah."
Yeah.
You're not doing it anymore. I said, "Well, I know."
Yeah. Exactly. That's what I'm saying. So.
But it all made sense. I mean, I'm no spring chicken anymore. If something happens, So.
Yeah. I think people need to, a couple of things when you go out to the woods, and I'm not talking about just going out like looking for cryptids. I'm talking about hunting or doing anything like that. Anytime you go out, even hiking or just taking a walk, just be aware of your surroundings.
Yeah.
It's the main thing, and I personally, I mean, that's just my opinion. I wouldn't go without some sort of protection myself. But, even if you have just bear spray or something, that's better than nothing because, chances are you'll run into a bear before you will like a dog man, Absolutely. So just, be prepared. And honestly, another thing is know like your native animal sounds, what animals are native to your state, to your area. Know the sounds that they make.
Well, on the flip side of that, and this as well as I do, you can study all you want. You're never going to know every sound that is in the woods.
No.
And you can't. It's hard, especially at night, to not jump to conclusions. Let your imagination run away with you, because there are things that go bump and crackle and snap in the in the woods that are just normal things. You know, I mean, an armadillo sounds like a herd of elephants going through the big
Absolutely does. So does a squirrel.
Yeah.
It sounds like a full-grown man coming down to you.
And if you're in a camper and you have a squirrel run across, and I don't know if y'all had this happen. I got squirrels running across my roof in my house all the time, and it sounds like a herd of horses running. You know, they'll jump on your camper and run across. You know, and I think a lot of that, especially if you listen to these, you know, our shows and all that kind of stuff, and you go out there, you're kind of on edge anyway,
right?
You know,
Sure.
and that can run away with you, man. Your imagination can take off on you.
Yeah, your imagination, your mind is a powerful thing.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I've been out in the woods many times, and too, you know, and you know, you hear things and you see things, and you just, you don't always see what's making those noises. So, like you said, you know, your mind wanders. You know, not everything is Bigfoot or you know, or a squirrel. You know.
Well, you don't, and what's funny is some of the things, because squirrels will throw stuff at you, crows will throw stuff at you, you know. But you have to watch the differences, because if you're getting acorns thrown at you, that's one thing. But if you're getting rocks thrown at you and you see them sailing through the trees,
You better pay attention.
you know, and if they have any size to them, you know, I mean,
You might want to leave the area.
Yeah, or at least, you know, talk to them a little bit. That's honestly, that's I've seen that work. I've seen, you know, hey, if these critters are coming in and they're, you know, if you bark at them a little bit, tell them to back off, they'll back off. Because a lot of times they'll only get close, and it works both ways. It's if you don't do anything or say anything or notice them, act like you don't notice them, they'll come in closer, they'll come in closer, they'll come in closer.
Right.
You know, but if you raise a little bit of hell with them, you know, and stuff, it's, you know, bark at them, hey, y'all get out of here, you know, they'll leave, because they don't, you know, that's not what they're looking for. They're trying to get up there without you noticing, for the most part, you know.
Yeah.
But, and I don't think 9 times out of 10 they're going to hurt you anyway. They may mess with you. You know, slap side of your trailer, push on your tent, you know, that type of thing. Steal your firewood.
Yeah. You know, too, people when they go out to the woods, you know, it's also about, like, you know, your camping area, you know, making it animal friendly too. Because I've been out to the woods and, you know, like raccoons come in and mess with your stuff, or bears, or, you know, that kind of thing. So you just got to prepare everything, and even, you know, Bigfoot proof them too. Yeah,
because I mean, it's nothing to hear, and that's going right back to what we were talking about. It's nothing to hear something rummaging through your cooler, but it may not be anything but a raccoon,
right?
You know, or it could be something else. You know?
Could be. Yep.
But I've told this story before, but kind of, we got people that may not listen to our show on here. I'll tell this story. Me and my wife went camping, and we were in the tent and we were asleep. And I don't know what time it was, 2, 3, 4 o'clock. And I wake up and I feel something licking the top of my head.
Well, that freaked me out.
And I kind of opened one eye and I'm looking around. I'm like, what the hell is going on here? You know, I didn't move. And I figured out what it was. I had scooched up and my head was up against the wall of the tent. And there was a raccoon on the outside licking the dew off of the tent where my head was up against.
Oh, wow.
I mean, I just laid there and let him do his thing, and he walked off. If that had been my wife, we'd have had a hole in the top of the tent. I guarantee you that.
Yeah, I believe it. I believe it.
But, and I got to do something on my last trip out to Brown Springs that I hadn't done in a long time. And that's just no tent, just throw you know, sleep under the stars. And I did that for 3 nights out there. Man, that was nice. That was nice.
Aren't you afraid of like snakes crawling in with you or something?
It's never happened to me before. I mean, it could, you know.
Good, that's what I'm saying. No, thank you.
But it's really nice to, you know, just, I mean, you talk about, and I know a tent is nothing. It's you know, it's either mosquito net or, you know, at best a couple of layers of nylon between you and the outside world, but it's still a barrier of some kind. And but when you get out there and you're sleeping under the stars and you ain't got nothing but a blanket or a sleeping bag on you, it's a whole new ball game. You know? And don't get me wrong, you know, I've slapped a few spiders off my face and that type of thing. But
I've never done that before. I have no intentions of. I'll keep a tent or a camper.
Don't get me wrong, I ain't gonna do it all the time because I ain't gonna, you know. But this was that weekend of that big windstorm, that dust storm that we had come through. You know, that's that weekend. And man, it was that first night or that first day. The wind calmed down that night, but that first day I was out there a little early, and it was like getting sandblasted. It was crazy. I had to wear a freaking mask. I made a wow. Yeah, I mean, it's crazy. I'll have to show you that video I've got of just the sand blowing through the air. It's just insane.
I can imagine.
But I normally don't go out when the winds are like that because to me that's the most dangerous time to go out. You know, especially in old growth forest because there's widowmakers all over the place down there. And so I was very particular on where I put my camp. You know, I'm like, okay, if the wind's blowing this, I literally did this, parked my truck, walked around and went, okay, the wind's coming from this direction. This tree's leaning this way. If it breaks, it's probably going to fall this way. I need to put over here. This tree's going to fall. I mean, it took me about an hour to figure out where to put my camp. Then I felt safe. You know?
I wouldn't have stayed. Nope, I would not have stayed.
But
that's a little too much for me.
I don't know. It's something I hadn't done in a long time, and it felt good. It felt good, you know.
Yeah, but, Brandy, you know, she sleeps in her car. Why didn't you sleep in your truck? I would have slept in the truck. That's what you should have done.
See, you and Brandy sleeping in a car is a whole lot different than me sleeping in a car.
I don't sleep in my car. Brandy sleeps in her car. I sleep.
Yeah, but I mean, you get my big ass in the back of the back seat of a truck, and it's all I can do to, you know, lay down. You know.
Yeah.
And I get all crunched up, and it's just not comfortable at all. And none of my air mattresses will fit, and I don't. That floor and them seats ain't comfortable. I'm just.
Well, the ground's not comfortable either.
Well, I had a little air mattress.
And how thick was the air mattress?
Huh?
How thick was the air mattress?
Well, I used my big one, so it was like 18 inches tall.
Oh, okay. Well, then that's not terrible. At least you're up off the ground. I thought you were like literally laying on the ground sleeping. Like.
No, I used to do that. I used to do nothing but a sleeping bag on the ground.
Yeah, no. No, thanks. Did you hear anything coming up or anything like that?
Oh yeah, I heard stuff moving all around. I didn't worry about nothing. I mean,
about, you know, like my thing, because I know like Brown Springs area, and I know, you know, we were just down in Texarkana, Brandy and I were, you know, there's a lot of hogs. Weren't you scared of like the hogs? Because that's what I would be scared of.
That was the most concerning thing, honestly. But they're not quiet.
Yeah.
So you're pretty much going to know when they come up into your camp or come close to you. But that's why I had my 45 in my, you know, right there on the air mattress next to me. So
there you go.
I thoroughly enjoyed it. I'll tell you this: that Saturday night, that Saturday afternoon, it was the weather. The wind had calmed down. The weather was absolutely, it was like 74 degrees or something like that. May have been a little hot, may have been a little more, but 78, something like that. But you crawl off in the shade. I took the best nap. I had 2 trucks drive by, I mean, right next to me, and I never woke up.
So how are you supposed to hear a hog come in then?
Well, there was 2 other people with me. Ranger and his son was with me, and they were,
Okay.
that day. So I wasn't too worried about it. I mean, I don't know. Ranger's ornery enough to let something root me out of my bed, though. So I don't know. He'd sit there and laugh at me.
Yeah.
But
yeah. So have you been out in the woods where, like, you're walking, you just get that creepy feeling of being watched? You ever get that?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Quite often.
That too.
Yeah. Quite often.
And I'm a firm believer, like, trust your gut, trust what your body's telling you. Like, there's something out there. It could just be a normal, regular squirrel. However, maybe it's not,
Yeah. And even in my younger days, I would get that, but I always wrote it off as, there was a predator around or something like that. Now, that's before I had any sightings or anything. Of course, after I had my dogman encounter, it was hard not to go,
Right.
what the hell is this? Well, it's just like my second encounter, after about 8 months when I went back out and I heard whatever it was walking through the woods,
Right.
Sounded like a person, could have been a person, wasn't, but it obviously wasn't a person. But yeah, from that point on, I mean, it's like you're aware of other things that are out there, whether you want to believe them or not. In the back of your head, you're going, "Oh,
Sure."
So I think noises mean a whole lot more. You kind of lose your innocence, I guess.
Right. It's true. And they're a lot louder too when you're out there in the woods in the middle of the night, and you hear that twig snap or, we've all heard that. Yeah. Last Sunday, Brandy and I went with Will Lunsford and Stephen Hill out down in Arkansas. And that they go to a creepy spot. I got to tell you, like, we could hear stuff in the woods coming closer to us from all sides.
Right.
And that's, like my adrenaline level was way high with that, and it was pretty cool, honestly. It was really
cool. That video that you posted of y'all out there, I was like, man, I want to go. So I got to get out there,
It was great. I mean, their spot is top notch. Top notch.
And there's so much stuff going on out there. That whole Sulphur River Basin is just packed full of critters of all kinds.
Yep. And then, I mean, lots of alligators, was one thing, was out there too, and snakes and, just the regular critters we had to watch for. But like, on that video, we got, like, to me and Brandy, I'm not saying it was Bigfoot, so don't think I am, but I mean, I can't explain it. It sounded like monkeys, honestly. Did you hear that?
Yeah. A lot of times, and it fooled me. It fooled me one time. Damn barred owls, man. When they get ramped up and there's like one's trying you got a mating couple and one's trying to horn in on the action, they'll get that monkey sound to them. And I mean, and it'll throw you off. Sometimes. Now I'm not saying that's what it was.
Right. No, I get you. I can't say what it was either. There was one noise. Well, it went on a couple times, and I don't know if I recorded that or not because I had stopped because I thought the noise had stopped. I thought they'd go away, but they didn't. And so I didn't pick up and start recording again. However, there was something out there that, I don't know, we didn't recognize a native animal. And Will Lunsford, he's been out in the woods all his life. Stephen Hill, they've been out there forever, so they know their regular animal sounds. However, this one almost sounded like, and it's weird. You know how when you like talk to a kid on the phone, you can tell it's a kid?
Right.
That's how this noise sounded. It sounded like a juvenile. It's the only way to explain it. It was not like coming like adult lungs, if that makes sense. And that was really, really odd to me. So, they think that maybe, it might have been a young one, calling for its mother, because we would hear a reply when it would call.
Now, see, I remember y'all talking about that on that. Now, the sound itself didn't come out real clear, but y'all were discussing it when it would happen. So, you got that.
Yeah. So, I don't know. I can't say what it was, I can't.
Well, I think, honestly, most of what comes in close, are juveniles.
Like they're clumsy, because, the noises we heard coming into us.
Yeah.
And I've had this at the LBL too, when I've been there out in the woods in the middle of the night. You can hear them come in closer to you. And I feel like they're being sloppy. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like, they're not, where I feel like an adult, it's a little more quieter, where, the juveniles are sloppy.
Well, and that's what I was talking about earlier. If you don't acknowledge it, they'll come in closer because they think they're getting away with something. If they step on a twig or something and you don't react, like, oh, they didn't hear me, and I can get a little closer.
Right.
That type of thing. I mean, look at the handprints we got on the truck. Those are juveniles. Those are juveniles. Every damn one of them. There's 3 sets.
Right.
They're just messing with you. But
I wonder if it's like a game to them,
I think it is.
Yeah. I mean, honestly, like, hey, Duke, I didn't feel like threatened that last weekend. Now, Brandy, on the other hand, she said that when she would walk up towards the woods line, like she just got the overwhelming feeling to step back, but I didn't feel like, honestly, we were in danger or anything like that. I feel like, that these creatures that are out there in the woods, they know Will Lunsford and Stephen Hill. They know them. They know that their intentions are good. Their intentions are pure, and they're not there to hurt them. So I feel like, they were watching from afar. You know what I'm saying? Like, not wanting to hurt us, because if they wanted to, we wouldn't be here.
Yeah. And see, that's another thing. I think, a lot of people have the misconception that every time they go out in the woods, these critters are around and they're just waiting to snack them up. And that's not the case.
No.
I mean, as many as encounters or odd sounds or whatever we talk about having, there's 10 times that much time that passes where nothing's going on.
Right.
And I don't know. I can't go. I'm not going to let the fear of something that may be out there stop me from going anywhere. I'm just not. I went through that, and I came to terms with it.
Yeah.
But I get it. I do. I understand wholeheartedly these people that have these experiences. And so I'm never going camping again. I get it. Don't. Yeah. If you feel uncomfortable, don't do it.
Yeah. Some of these people's encounters were just so terrifying that, it gave them PTSD. And I see how that can happen.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Because the thing about it is, and we've said this 1,000 times if we said it once, Krista, what we conceive, what we perceive as aggressive, I think a lot of times isn't. It's them trying to keep it from getting aggressive.
Right. Telling you to back off.
Right. Right.
And
it could let you know they're there.
Right. It could be their young. It could be their food source. Who knows, Yeah. Or even, it could be another predator in the area and they're trying to warn you of that.
Could be.
We don't know.
I don't know. Well, it's like that one thing I saw. I don't know if it was a damn tiger or if it was a Bigfoot or what it was. Jason's convinced it was a tiger when I saw that eye shine and all that kind of stuff. And I don't know. But it makes sense. It's a possibility out there.
You might want to explain to people about you seeing a tiger in Oklahoma in the woods.
Yeah, well, so we went out there, and it was me and Amy and Laney and Pops and his son Junior. And we went up to we was going to go. Oh no, I'm sorry, that's different. That's a different damn time. Holy crap! This time it was just me, Bob Van Buren, and Amy and Laney, and I was going to take them up to the cemetery, and we pulled up the park there at the bottom of the hill, and we hadn't even got out of our trucks, and we're surrounded by 5 cop cars. There was a couple of tribal police and sheriff's deputies. And we gingerly got out of the trucks, or me and Bob did anyway. Amy and Laney stayed put. And they said, "What are y'all doing out there?" And I got kind of this, kid-eating grin on my face. And the guy looked at me and says, "Are you out here Bigfoot hunting?" And I said, "Well, yeah." I said, "We're kind of the Bigfoot guys, and that's the paranormal team. I was going to take them up to the cemetery." Well, that started the conversation.
Right.
And they proceeded to tell us, ask us if we were armed. We said no. And the fellow back at camp, which was Jason, he was armed. And they said, "Well, we recommend you carry a sidearm out here." And we was like, "What?"
Right.
And I said, "Well, we've had reported tiger sightings out here." And we were like, "What the hell are you talking about? Tiger sightings?"
Right.
So, everybody, I'm sure, knows about the Tiger King. If you haven't, Google it. Okay, it's an outfit out of Oklahoma. He's in prison now. I think he's on death's bed. I don't know, but anyway, he had this big show and this big outfit where he had tigers and all kinds of big cats and stuff.
Yep.
About 40 miles away from Brown Springs. Well, when he got busted and shut down, the people that took over moved it within about 1.5 miles, 2 miles of Brown Springs, which is one of my main research areas. Well, when they got busted and took down, there were 17 cats that were unaccounted for, tigers that were, big cats that were unaccounted for.
That's scary.
And they told us that, yeah, they've had reported tiger sightings. But it's odd, though. They've never had an attack that they blamed on this. And I don't know if they would, and I'm not sure if they had one, if they would come out and say it was.
Right.
But because there's so much stuff out there they can blame it on besides a, big cat. I mean,
I don't think that they would, because then that would cause panic and fear, obviously.
Right,
Tigers are loose in somebody's backyard. They got children, they got pets. Gary Spikes says they're still unaccounted for. They're not going to put it out there. That's just gonna cause people chaos and fear.
Which I was curious then. I still am. Why did they tell us?
Right.
But they also told us that 2 of their officers had Bigfoot sightings right down the road. So, cool. That doesn't happen very often.
Nope. That's cool, though, that they told you about the Bigfoot sightings.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. And Pops we had went out there one time, and Pops their pigs had just tore, because they lease out portions of these fields and they grow hay and wheat and stuff like that in this wildlife management area. Well, the pigs had just completely tore up this one field. I mean, it was acres of damage. It was crazy. And the biologist was out there trying to patch it up on a bobcat, Well, Pops got to talking to him, and he told him that he asked him about Bigfoot or whatever, He said, "Oh, they're not around here." He didn't say they don't exist. He said, "Oh, they're not around here," or something like that. I wasn't in the conversation, but
right.
I'm sure Pops will put the correct terms or he used in there. But getting back to the tiger thing, and then I had went, years before that happened, a few years before that happened, I'd been up there by myself, and I'm walking up the trail of the cemetery, and this is on audio, it's on the channel, folks, on Texas Front Porch. You hear me walking up the trail, and I go, "Oh, I just heard a little growl over my lip, kind of had a purr to it." I didn't know anything about no dadgum tigers. and I continue to walk up, and I get to the top, right at the entrance of the cemetery, and I start looking around with this little pin light I had, and I catch his eye shine backward to my left, over my left shoulder.
Mm-hmm.
And what I found odd, the eyes were big. They were, big around silver dollar, but they had a big spread, about 8 inches between them.
Right.
And I'm going through my head, what the hell can this be? Because that's big, whatever it was, because it was only about 1.5 feet or so off the ground. And I'm like, what in the world will be that low to the ground with that, that much spread between their eyes? I'm thinking that's a horse or a cow, or something like that. And I'm thinking, well, it could be a Bigfoot, and I was convinced, hey, but I'm looking at a Bigfoot, and it started peekaboo behind a tree with me,
Mm-hmm.
and then after a little bit, and I'm thinking, this is cool, and then it stood up, and you know how when you're kneeling down, when you stand up, you kind of move forward too, you know. That's what this thing did. It got closer, and when it raised up, and when it got about, I don't know, shoulder height to me, I said, well, maybe it's time to back out. So I walked back down. I didn't run. I ain't gonna run nowhere. You know me. I can't.
Yeah.
But I walked back down the trail, and that was it.
Mm-hmm.
But could it have been a tiger? Absolutely, could have been a tiger.
Yeah, sure.
But
Absolutely could have.
And like I said, Jason's convinced. And that night, and I know I'm bouncing around here a little bit, but that night we got the cops surrounded us and everything. The reason they were out there is they were looking for an alleged coven of witches that were sacrificing chickens out there. It was a group of about 6 to 7 women, according to what we were told, dressed in black and out there sacrificing chickens, and in a black SUV. Well, Jason had come in earlier that day, and he had seen a black SUV with people in it. May have been them, may not have been them.
Right.
But I also know that in the period that we were gone, when we got back, we found Jason in his car with his 44 in his hand with a hammer back on it. Because he felt like and the way he describes it, he felt like his life was an imminent
danger. Yeah.
Imminent danger. That's how he felt. And then when we pulled up, it dissipated.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know what was going on. And that place it's got dark energy to it anyway. Brandy did that. But
they're adding to it, by doing those kind of sacrifices and those rituals down there. That's yeah.
Well, we're doing that live up there, and Brandy and Nick and Holly were up there. We found that voodoo, hoodoo, whatever.
Yeah, that's what I told you guys to leave it alone. Don't touch it. I was running your show that night, and you guys were out there. Yeah.
I'm poking it with a stick,
Yeah, I'm like, don't touch that stuff, Yeah.
But
so point being, like, what lurks in the woods, it's not always just the cryptid side of things too. It's the human element, that's probably the scariest of all, especially people out there doing rituals and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Don't mess with none of that stuff. And
that's one of the problems out there is there is an occult presence out there, and in that area, not too far, somewhere down in there, and I don't know the location. I don't think I'd give it if it was, because I don't want anybody getting in trouble with this. But supposedly, there's a family of werewolves. Yeah, they're in southern Oklahoma.
Wow.
And there's been a few people talk about it, but I don't know enough about it to speak on the subject, but I know it's supposedly supposed to be there. They walk around human most of the time, but they are shapeshifters according to what I've understood.
Interesting. I don't know.
I don't either.
I can't explain that. What about, you hear people go out into the woods too, and, again, on the human element, but what about the feral people?
That's
scary in itself too.
Yeah. We don't deal with it so much down here as, like you would say up in the mountains.
Yeah.
But our feral people down here are pretty much crackheads.
Yeah. Ours here in Missouri too.
Now, Gary.
The Appalachians or something, that's
absolutely.
They have issues there. Yeah.
Absolutely. Pops, Gary Spike Sr. mentions like the hanging tree. Me, him, and Virgil were out there, and we went down this 2-track, and there's this tree, and you look at it, would be a perfect freaking. I looked at it, I said that'd be a perfect freaking hanging tree. It's got a limb that hangs about 9 feet off the ground. It just goes straight out, and it's big and thick. And I wonder how many people's been hung off that thing, and we're sitting there talking about it. Well, Virgil had, and you may be able to tell me what this. You know how it's a ghost finder or whatever it is, but it's some kind of a camera or whatever. But when it senses some kind of, it shows you the stick figures.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know what the hell that thing's called.
Yeah.
But he had one of them, and it showed figures hanging in the tree off that limb.
Oh, wow. So I will tell you, though, those can read off false positives, because if there's something that might look like a person, like, for instance, like, if it could have been reading a branch or something that had, like branches coming off of it, and it could have come out with a figure. Not saying that's what it did, but, they can read false positives.
Well, it was real funny that, or, funny, not funny, haha, funny, weird, but, that it, showed that at that particular time on, what we were talking about.
That's pretty interesting.
But it did have kind of some bad juju coming off of it too, that area right there by that tree. And we also, that was the same spot where we were picking up both ultra and infrasound at the same time.
Oh, wow.
And I don't know. I'm pretty convinced that a lot of the ultra and infrasound that we're dealing with may be earth noise.
Could be.
Because, oh, Mother Earth, man, she'll moan and groan, and we can't always hear it.
That's right.
It's like earthquakes. You don't always hear them, but because they're in that frequency where we can't hear.
Right.
Some people can pick them up because it's the vibration that makes them, So that could be what it was. I don't know. Yeah,
we get little earthquakes here all the time in Missouri from the New Madrid fault. I have yet to feel one. haven't ever felt one. Now, Brandy, on the other hand, she's down closer to it.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, we've had them. We've had them. About 10 miles from the house, I guess, and I've never felt one. But now, when I lived out yonder, where I grew up, we would have some weird stuff happening, and we'll talk about this and we'll wrap it up, folks. But when I was growing up, we would hear these loud booms, and it would shake the entire house, rattle the windows and the pictures. And I always assumed that it was just military aircraft breaking the sound barrier out there, because it was, we didn't have a lot of people around. But I don't know what it was. I don't know.
Yeah. Yep. Absolutely. Paul says, if you experience things that are not in your control, don't ever let them put you in fear. And I couldn't agree more. And that's, I think, especially my thing of doing the ghost side of things. If you show fear, you can become a target. That entity will see you're weak and weak-minded, and they very well can target you. And that's the same too out in the woods. I would think that too. You just.
Oh, absolutely. You let your mind run away, and you're going to get in trouble, because you're not thinking rationally.
Yep.
I'll tell y'all something. I've told all my kids growing up, and it's one of the hardest things to do. Control your emotions. Don't let them control you.
That's right.
And that is one of the hardest things. You talk about easier said than done. That is very, very hard, and even coming from the paranormal side, the paranormal and the cryptid side, both. Yeah. You don't really, it drives me nuts to be watching these shows and they're like, oh, what is it? Oh, what is it? What is it? That right. Just act like you didn't, don't point things out. Don't, oh my God, but it's tough. I still react to stuff,
Yep,
that last damn crawler thing that I saw, I reacted to it, because I'd never seen anything like that.
Right. Right.
But
Yep. Sorry, my dog's trying to make an appearance.
Well, that's all right.
Out of all times, he wants to be loved on.
Well, he's allowed. The only reason mine's not in here is because I got the door shut.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
Krista, why don't you tell us what y'all got coming up on the Blondes and Booze, and we'll start wrapping this up.
Wow, we got a lot coming up with our paranormal group. We have a lot of events coming up that Brandy and I will be at. Sorry, oh gosh, come on, guys. Sorry.
See, this is just
200
like,
pounds, and he's just he trying to put his leg on you, and he's
well, this is just like having Celena on. Her dog jumps in her lap and's got to have loving every show.
Yeah, that's her dog isn't 200 pounds, is he? Mine is.
No, she's she I think she's running about 60 though. She's
Okay.
no lep dog, that's for sure.
Yeah, neither is he, and he knows better. He's just giving me those sad eyes. But we got a lot of events coming up. I talked about Emmaus Village in the beginning of the show, so we've got some events there. We've got Arcadia Valley that we'll be doing, and that's also in Missouri. We've got Missouri State Penitentiary. You know that word. I can never say that word. That's coming up in June, so that's going to be a fun one for us. And we got Ray County Museum in May also. So we got a lot coming up in the field type stuff. And then we got our investigation we're doing in May with you and Monica and the team and that. So we do have a lot coming up. We've got a conference. We're going to the Bigfoot conference in Townsend, Tennessee on May 3rd. We're doing that one.
Nice.
Yep. And then we are doing obviously our own conference. So not as much as we have been in past years, but we still stay busy.
Well, it seems like you're going out in the field a lot more this year than you did last year, though.
That was our goal, honestly, because we did a lot of time last year at conferences and events and stuff. So we both agreed that we wanted to, go to more out in the woods type things and do that. So that's what we're doing. Mm-hmm.
Well, Selena's got a hell of a guest coming next week. Greg Ogles is going to be here.
Oh yeah, he's a good friend of all of ours. Mm-hmm. So, Greg's the best. Yep. Greg's actually speaking at our conference too.
Yes, he is.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Yeah, good guy.
I don't have much of any. I'm going to try to get out in the field, maybe this month and next month. Of course, I'll be going up there with y'all May. Mm-hmm. And in June, I've got the Alabama conference, the Alabama Bigfoot conference in Anniston, Alabama. And then, I don't know, July. I don't know. It just depends what the weather is,
Yeah, that's same with us too. We've got, our events with our team, so some of those we can go to any of them that we want to go to. So if it's, see what the weather is. If it's too hot, I'm not going because a lot of these places are not air conditioned.
Yeah. Well, one thing I'm excited about is I'm teaming up with Monica's husband, Chris. Mm-hmm. And for those of you all that don't know, we're trying to get him on the show, folks. He was an underwater photographer for Nat Geo and all this kind of stuff, and did a rafting trip that's cool, phenomenal. But me and him together are going to do some underwater investigations out on Dogman Ranch because there's some that creek down there is crystal clear and it's got some holes in it, and we're going to go investigate those, and we're going to film it all underwater and everything like that because this place is chock full of fossils that you can see. Wow. What are we not seeing? We're going to find out. So
yeah, awesome. Sounds fun.
I'm really looking forward to that.
Yeah, sounds fun. Yeah, and then I think Friday we have let's see who's on our show Friday. We have Michigan UFO and Paranormal. There's some good people there.
Yeah,
they're gonna come on and talk some weird and funky stuff. So anyway, yeah.
Well, we're gonna say goodnight, and y'all take care. Make sure you hit that subscribe button. Leave a comment after all these shows that you listen to. YouTube has changed their algorithm once again, and comments are what they're looking for because they're trying to become more of a social platform. That's what the deal is. So comment after the show. Those are very, very important. Be sure you subscribe on your way out. Go. If you haven't been over to Blondes and Booze and Texas Front Porch, go over there, hit that subscribe button. I can promise you won't be disappointed in the girls. Maybe not so much me. We'll see. But Anyway, y'all have a good night. Krista, appreciate you, man.
Yep. See y'all.
All right. Bye, y'all.
Good night.